I'm starting today's video with respect to everyone. In today's video, I'm going to tell you a story that will make your hair stand on end. Let's start without talking. Today's story is written by Emily from Texas. We were hanging out with friends like every day. Look, everyone, this is going to be our most exciting trip yet, Sarah said excitedly, her eyes sparkling. We, Emily, Jack, Michael, Jessica, Ryan, Olivia, and Sarah, had spent the day exploring Washington, D.C., museums, parks, little cafes, everything. But our real purpose for the night was still ahead of us. We decided to spend the night outside the city in an old, abandoned bungalow that the locals called the Haunted Bungalow. Everyone was wary, but we were excited. When we first saw the bungalow through the forest path, it felt like we had entered a horror movie set. The walls were broken, the windows were covered in dust, the porch was collapsing. Jack parked the car, and we all looked around the bungalow in silence. "Do you really think anyone could have lived here alone?" Olivia whispered. "Maybe not," Ryan replied with a smile. Emily said happily, "Okay, now we can see for ourselves." As we entered the bungalow, the cold air and thick mud suffocated us. The wooden floors creaked with every step. The air was filled with dust and some unknown metallic smell. We first sat down in the main room. There were many old paintings on the walls. The pictures seemed to be looking at us. Sarah joked, "They're judging us." We all laughed and said, "Okay, just a story." After a while, we heard the first strange sound, a kind of whispering somewhere upstairs. "What are you listening to?" Jessica said, her voice shaking. "Maybe it's the wind," Michael said, but there was no confidence in her voice. We split into two groups. Olivia and Jack went upstairs. The rest of us stayed downstairs. That's when the first scary thing happened. Suddenly, a harsh sound came from above, and Jack shouted, "Emily, Sarah, someone's here." We ran upstairs, but the room was empty. Nothing, just smoky air. Night fell. The bungalow seemed to wake up on its own. The closed door was now open, shadows moving strangely. Emily's lamp began to flicker. "What do you think?" Ryan whispered. The air was cold, cold as a knife. Suddenly, there was a loud bang as the door closed. Jessica screamed. Sarah said, "Are we safe now?" The sound of a baby crying came from somewhere, suddenly hard and soft. "This isn't funny anymore," Emily said, her voice trembling. We decided to stay together, but the shadows were getting closer. Olivia shouted, "Look, there's a face here." Michael also froze. The face disappeared as Emily turned the light on, but the cold touch and fear in her eyes remained. Jessica fell to a floorboard and screamed. We went to her side. Every room seemed to be breathing, whispers ringing in her ears, meaningful but unknown words. Just our imagination. Old houses always make those sounds. But this wasn't normal. The door was opening and closing on its own. The eyes of the painting seemed to be holding us. Midnight. We looked around. Suddenly, Jack disappeared. We shouted for him. Nowhere. "Jack, where?" Ryan's voice trembled. The sound of the baby crying came from all directions now. Emily grabbed my hand and said, "We won't live. We have to get out." We run, but the bungalow seems to be pulling us into a hidden room. Inside one of the rooms, we see our friends standing like shadows, their faces pale and silent. As we approach, they disappear. Only the echo of our screams remains. The end of the night. The three of us, Emily, Sarah, and I, are left. The others are all gone. We try to open the door, but it doesn't work. The window shows only a horrible reflection. Suddenly, a shadow appears in the corner of the room. A large, invisible face, moving almost like a swimmer. The words are, "Two just two, live or join." We run together, finally stopping outside by the river. The bungalow is silent from behind, but our friends have not returned. We know that we have survived only because we are holding on to each other. The three of us, Emily, Sarah, and I, were sitting together through the night. The air inside the bungalow is cold and thick. The sound of each wooden floorboard is like a whisper in our ears. It was echoing. "Are we really alone here?" Sarah whispered. I shook my head. "Yes, none of our friends are here anymore. They are all gone." Suddenly, we heard a cry in the distance. It was like a baby crying, but terribly serious. The sound was slowly coming closer to us. We decided to try to get out. We walked towards the main door of the bungalow, but the door was tightly closed, as if someone or something was blocking us. Every window showed a dark reflection. The three of us slowly walked towards the door, holding each other's hands. Suddenly, shadows began to whisper and move around us. It was not a person, a tall, voiceless, thick black shape. It appeared and disappeared before our eyes as quickly as it appeared. "Is it really an animal?" Emily said, her voice trembling. "No, it is the bungalow," I whispered. "It feeds on our fear." We were moving towards the door when suddenly there was a shout from behind. Sarah screamed and let go of my hand and looked back. But there was no friend, only a distant voice from the shadows. It felt like the bungalow itself was hunting us. We held on to each other. Emily said, "If we don't stay together, it will hunt us too." Indeed, we understood. The rest of our friends had disappeared one by one, and the bungalow was holding them back. Ryan, Jessica, Michael, Jack, Olivia, all invisible. It was just the three of us. As we opened the door, a letter suddenly appeared, hanging in the air. The letter read, "Those who stay next to each other can survive. The rest merge with the bungalow." We understood that only being together had saved us. We ran towards the river, the whispering sounds inside the bungalow gradually echoing behind us. Every room, every corner seemed to come alive, pulling us behind. When we reached the river, we turned back for the last time and saw that the bungalow was quiet. But the deep silence was etched in our minds as a terrifying memory. We survived, but the others? Sarah was trembling in her voice. I just looked at the river silently. Friends will not return. Night passed and dawn broke. We returned to the city. The experience of the bungalow has left a permanent imprint on our minds. Friendship, fear, and the mystery of the bungalow all mixed together. This was the night of our lives, where we learned that it was impossible to survive without being together. Morning turned into thick darkness. We, Emily and Sarah, were finally sitting by the river, trying to calm ourselves in the cool air. The night still left an invisible weight on us. "I never imagined such a thing," Sarah said with a trembling voice. I shook my head. "We are the only ones alive. The rest, they are not." We have been thinking about our lost friends inside the bungalow for 3 days. Every moment, every shadow, every sound is alive in our minds. That fear of the night still does not leave us. We headed back toward town, but on the way we found ourselves on a strange road, where the streetlights were incomplete and every tree seemed to be bleeding. Emily paused and said, "Are we on the right track?" I just stared at the road silently. It felt like the bungalow was still following us just to see if we were alive. Within 3 days, we heard that the shadow friends of that bungalow had disappeared. Jack, Michael, Jessica, Ryan, Olivia, everyone had slowly disappeared. Not before our eyes, but psychologically they had disappeared, the invisible power of the bungalow matching. What we had seen on the first night now seemed like just the beginning. The bungalow was like an ancient cursed place, transforming people's fears into power. The three of us were there at the beginning, then the three disappeared, finally the two of us. The experience had crushed us emotionally, but we survived because we were together. Sarah suddenly shouted, "Look, there's a sound behind us." I turned around, nothing, just the whisper of the wind. But it seemed that our friends were shouting at us, asking for help. We moved forward, but there was no sign of them. We returned to the city, but the memory of that night flashed before our eyes. As we entered each room, we saw the shadow of the bungalow mentally testing us. We understood that our friends would never return. Only the two of us were alive, because of holding on to each other. When we arrived in the city, we sat down to rest, but all the events of the night were creating fear in our minds. Sarah said, "We are alive, but they?" I said, my voice cracking, "We don't know." But the bungalow only left the two of us. We returned to the lights of the city, but the terrifying experience of the bungalow will stay with us forever. The test of friendship and courage, the fear of the supernatural, the disappearance of friends. All in all, an experience that we will never forget. Not saying a word. That day, we stood by the river, the three of us, me, Emily, and Sarah, standing together in silence. The moonlight was shining on the bungalow, and its silence seemed to instill fear in us. Emily said, "We're alive, but why did it keep us alive?" Sarah turned quietly and looked at the bungalow. As we ran, I saw a strange thing, a sign carved on the wall, which we didn't notice at first. It's as if only the bungalow knows. We went back and examined the signs. I saw that there were many old inscriptions and symbols on the wall, which indicated that the bungalow was the home of an ancient spirit, and that spirit collected the fear of any person who entered his power. "It's not just fear, it wants our power," I whispered. "Those who were alone at first disappeared one by one. Only those who are together are allowed to live," Sarah said in surprise. "So the reason we survive is connection to each other?" I shook my head. "That's right. The bungalow only preys on lone people. Friendship, togetherness, that's what saved us." We could see deeply. Every room in the bungalow held people's past fears and sorrows. When we entered the rooms, those past fears came alive. And those who lose control of themselves because of their own fear never come back. Suddenly, Emily shouted, "Look, a shadow is moving." We looked and saw an invisible face which was coming out of the bungalow walls and moving towards us. But we were not afraid. We held each other's hands. "It's testing us," I said. "If we didn't hold each other, we would have become part of it," Sarah whispered. "So the essence of this curse is to transform fear into power. Those who can conquer fear survive." We understood then that the bungalow was no ordinary haunted place. It was the teacher